patients to Northern Colorado, to Casper. And in order to do that, we need to continue to make our community an attractive place for young families. And so more than a hospital district, I would just like us to see continued emphasis on projects that enhance Laramie County as a whole, like the Archer Event Center, the multi-use center at Archer. I think that's a great addition to our community, and I'd just like to see more things like that, and the expansion and continuation of projects like the Greenway, and just lifestyle projects like that, I think do a really good job of keeping and education, making sure that our education system is top-notch to bring those young families, young physicians here and have them stay here.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone want to take another 30 seconds to add or comment? Okay, all righty. We got a question from the audience that I'm not completely understanding, but I'll go ahead and read it, and maybe we may have the question or explain it further. Would you support the development of the Belvoir Ranch, which was approved in the primary, and why was it dropped? Does anyone know what the reference is to with the person? But Belvoir Ranch was approved in the primary and then dropped. Is it a questioner?
The development of the trails and stuff. It's the one that's by the dump.
Oh, okay. So development in terms of turning it into a recreational opportunity.
Catching it up with the Red Mountain and whatever they call the grasslands up there in Colorado.
Okay.
Originally, I think it was all supposed to be interconnected.
So
now it stops at the state line.
okay, so I guess the question, let's see, I think Mr. Filer, you're on. Maybe we'll circle around and we'll start with Ms. Heath here.
Thanks, Marguerite.
Yeah.
Gosh, I wanted to think about that a little bit longer.
Well, and I guess even looking at the bigger picture for opportunities for recreational systems, trails, et cetera, being able to expand them, hook up, make the most of a piece of property that we have had for several years. But anyway, is the county doing everything it can to take care of the recreational opportunities that helps every person, even if it's here, it still helps other people in other part of the county. Are we doing everything we can? What has stopped it, or what would help us proceed further?
I think probably the biggest thing that has stopped it is money. I was part of a tour that went through there about 2 years ago, and we did get to visit the Big Hole and see some of the obstacles that are in place with the railroad and some of the other things that are going on out there. And having been the liaison to the County Fire Chiefs Association, one of the things that I've spent a lot of time talking to is our fire chief that is out there right now, Chief Pomeroy. He's concerned about access to the area for fire protection. Right now it's limited. They have to come clear down to Otto Road in order to reach the far eastern end of the Belvoir, or they have to go in through Harriman. They have issues getting across the railroad tracks in some of the areas in between. So that's a concern. Our law enforcement is looking at the cost of having to have additional deputies, additional equipment. So there's another expense that's in there. Do I enjoy recreation? Yes, I do. Do I like, the opportunity to go out and hike? Yes, I do. But I have to be a realist and realize that this is going to be a very expensive project. It is in the county, but it's city-owned land. So it's going to be a project that's going to have to be driven more by the city than it is the county, but it's going to have to be teamwork in order to get it done. And as long as there are other needs that have to be taken care of first, our wants are going to have to wait.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mullen.
Oh, I was going to blame it on Councilman Johnson.
Oh,
since
okay.
it's city-owned, but he just walked out.
Well, you can go ahead and then
Yes.
you can still
Knows
do
what
it,
he's up
but
to.
he just won't be here. Okay.
No, but to expand on your expanded question, I do think that we need to continue to look for recreational uses throughout our community. But like Commissioner Heath said, it is all a matter of money and getting the approval for those things. And that's where I like the sixpenny, the use of the sixpenny, because a lot of times that differentiates or changes things that people consider once, and then they then become needs because the voters have approved them and requested them. But not all projects pass the first time. Things like the Archer Multi-Use Center, initially went out as, I think, a $12 million project with maybe more limited scope, and the voters didn't approve it. They took the feedback from voters and restructured the project and came back, and it was approved and is underway out there. And if you haven't been out to Archer and seen just the mass that is this steel structure, it's quite phenomenal, and I'm excited for its addition to our community. But you even look to Pine Bluffs, what they've done with the rec board up there, whether it be at their community center with the improvements that they've made, or the disc golf up through the canyon at the golf course. It's just really remarkable what is available in our county that I just don't think a lot of people realize. So,
Mr. Thompson.
Am I in favor of recreational paths out at the Belvoir? Heck yes. Anything that will get families and kids off the couch and out into the environment. And if you guys have a chance to ever go out there, it is the most gorgeous piece of property that you will ever see. So I am very much in favor of that project. More general terms, from the county and recreation, when you look at what we have done, granted, money is always a concern, but we have done so much with so little funds over the past years that I have been on the commission. We have redone Clear Creek Park. We've got a bicycle obstacle course that's going in out there. We've got the horse... I forget what it's called, the jumping things out at Archer. We have got the Archer complex growing. We've got a fairground out there. We've got Frisbee golf out there. The things that we have been able to do with small amounts of money have shown a true commitment from our commission that, yes, we are very much in favor of recreation. We think it's remarkably important to our community, and I think we're going to continue to support that. I know I certainly will.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Filer.
Well, I spent a lot of time out there off of Harriman Road, actually. That Belvoir Ranch, I think that it's important that we start doing something with that and working with the city in order to get something going out there. Recreational paths, anything like that. And, my wife and kids and I, we all love to hike, and we try to stay as close to home as we can because sometimes travel in Wyoming can be a little strenuous. But it's got to be something that's going to be a partnership. It's not just the elected officials, but our community has to get together and show strong support for it also, especially with those types of expenses. But that's where the elected officials, we work together with the city because it's city-owned property to see what we can do with that. But we also come back to the voters and ask you what you guys would like, and that's where like Mr. Malm was saying with the 6 penny and things like that. It's where we can approve certain projects, can move forward with them. Would I support it? 100%.
Okay, thank you. Another 30 seconds. Okay, well, this will be moving on, and this, I think, is going to be our last question of the evening, after which we will have 2 minutes. Maybe we'll give Mr. Filer an extra minute and the closing, just so he can do the opening, closing at once. But the question has to do with, and it's really something that is sort of the future of Laramie County. Do you believe Cheyenne's population hitting 225,000, if that is on anyone's predictoma? Anyway, I would guess, just to think of the whole county, but Cheyenne growing, especially with the new Development Department of Defense projects and other things coming in. Do you think a huge population growth can be sustained with Laramie County water usage? What do we do about water? We talked about construction and jobs. Water seems to be a limiting factor, doesn't it? And I guess the answer is yes, no, or how. And actually, we'll start with Mr. Malm this time. How do we manage a huge population growth with our water supply?
So as a real estate agent or a realtor here in Laramie County, when we first were starting to have the discussions about water issues, and we were having the meetings with the state engineer's office, county commissioners, city officials, across the board, all the stakeholders, agricultural producers in the eastern part of the county, we were all meeting and trying to discuss and come up with a long-term plan. And I think that initially they had implemented some moratoriums and some size restrictions on new well drilling for residential wells, and I think that those plans run through, or those regulations run through 2020. I may be off, but I believe that's what it was. And so I defer to the state engineer's office and their long-term projections for what our use is, and then what our needs are in our eastern part of our county as far as our agricultural producers, because those people are living off those farms and off that land. And so we need to make sure that we're not only taking care of them, but we're making sure that any new subdivision has water, has the ability to have homes that have water and septic systems that aren't contaminating well systems. And I think we just have to be very mindful moving forward and have every stakeholder at the table when we have those discussions.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Thompson.
So 2 parts to this question, the county part and then the city part. The county part, we have been very involved with the state engineers. State engineer is in charge of all the water in the state of Wyoming. So as a county commissioner 8 years ago, I went to Patrick Terrell and I said, give us some guidelines to go by. And at the time, they gave us this little memo that was written that said the minimum lot size should be 7 to 8 acres, but we will continue to permit a well for any legally divided lot. So that kind of gives us some direction. And then we pushed and I kept talking with them. And then we had the committee that formed and we worked on the water use. And when they came in and had their study done with that, I went to the state engineer and I said, please, now is the chance where we're doing this study. Give us some good hard data that we can use at the county level to set our minimum lot size. And so we had this, what's called the AMEC memo. AMEC was the group that did this, and they came up with this memo for Laramie County that said, in this particular, and it broke it down into different zones. This zone, your minimum lot size should be this. This zone, it should be this. This zone, it should be this. And kind of gave us a guideline to go by, which really has helped us as a commission, kind of helped us to set this minimum lot size that we've been using of about 5.25 acres, which certainly better for business than 7 acres. And again, we have a little bit of science behind that. The other side of this question is, are you sure you're reading that right? I think I might have another 45 to go. The other side of this question is the city, and if we're looking at 225,000 people, there's going to have to be some major trans-basin diversion done to bring water to this basin.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Filer.
Well, thanks, Marguerite. One, I'm not opposed to growing, especially with all the different stuff that's going on right now, especially with the Department of Defense and everything else. I think it's wonderful that we're growing. But the other concerns of that is the water, just like everybody spoke about, working with the engineers department. Also, the county has to work with the city and the Board of Public Utilities, especially with any development within the city limits. But we need to focus and concentrate and still work with those same boards and commissions to make sure that we are getting set guidelines with the state engineer's office and stuff to make sure that we are not using up all that water, because that rural area out east of here is very important. I see it every time when I go to work, and they're growing their crops, they're feeding their cattle. The pig farmers and stuff like that out there, they need water as much as any one of us do here in the city limits, so it's going to be a collaboration of a lot of groups coming together to make sure that we can handle this growth.
Thank you. Ms. Heath.
Well, at my age, I may not be here by the time it's 225,000, but just saying that I am. I think we all have the responsibility to conserve water, and we may need to rethink how we do our landscaping, whether it's in Cheyenne, whether it's out in the county. Our agricultural economy here in the county is very, very important. Just our organic crops that are grown, the impact of that is several $1 million a year. And right now the farm economy is kind of pushing in the bottom of the tank, and those guys are out there struggling, and some of them without irrigation wouldn't be able to produce the amount of crops that they are producing right now. The trans-basin is an option. It's a very expensive option. It's one that I think we would definitely have to have the state involved with in doing this. But at the same time, when you're looking at where they want to bring that water from, which is the Green River, those folks over there are adamant, no, you're not taking our water. They don't want it to go to Colorado. So they want to keep their water, so they don't want to share. So now what do? We have some opportunity to expand some of the Bopu dams so that they can hold more water. But I think we have to all be at the table and talk this over, because, we can't live without water. I don't care who you are. We need it for our crops. We need it just for our daily use. So bring everybody to the table and figure this issue out. And again, it's something that's not going to be easily solved.
Okay, thank you. And just to let the public know, BOPU is Board of Public Utilities, so that would be the City of Cheyenne. Okay, please, Mr. Thompson.
So we were talking about this the other day, and we were talking about the trans-basin diversion, which we are currently doing, and Board of Public Utilities has been doing that. But Ron Cayley, the commissioner that is going out, works for the Board of Public Utilities. He made a comment that it takes 30 to 50 years to build a dam and a reservoir. So I think when you look at that number and you truly think about that, and I don't know who he was quoting, and I probably shouldn't quote him without knowing who he was quoting, but when you think about that, I mean, it's going to take some real strong community leaders now to make sure that we are planning appropriately for the future, because that is way out into the future.
Not a short-term solution.
Correct.
No. Anyone else want to add or comment further? If not, then we'll go ahead and go into our closing. Again, as I stated at the beginning, you have 2 minutes. You can use it to sum up, to add on, to comment further on anything you've already said. And we will begin with Mr. Thompson. 2 minutes. Thank you.
Again, my appreciation to the League of Women Voters and to everybody that is here and everybody that's going to watch it online. Again, it's crucial to vote, and it's crucial to be informed when you vote. I am asking for your vote in my reelection campaign. I do feel that I'm a good candidate for the job. I've got the experience. I'm a businessman. I understand the challenges that a small businessman faces, and I think my experience on the commission the past 8 years, I think makes me probably the best qualified to continue to be a county commissioner. So I would ask for your vote, that I would continue to be able to make, the intelligent, rational decisions based on honest family values. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Filer, 2 minutes.
Thanks, League of Women Voters, and I want to apologize to everybody. I was at work, and I had to hurry up and get down here as fast as I could, but when work calls, it is what it is. But again, I'm Lee Filer. I'm running for county commissioner. I'm a former state representative here in Wyoming, and right out of the House District 12 is the south west corner of Laramie County, which I actually, Harriman Road in that area where the Belvoir Ranch was. I was a representative in that area. I serve on a couple different boards and commissions for the governor, the Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities. I'm the chairman of that council, and I'm also on the Governor's Advisory Council for Department of Family Services. I'm a vice local chairman for my union for the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers. And I want to give a shout out to two of my brothers who just died here a few days ago out west of town here. But other than that, I'm a family man. I'm married, 6 kids. I love to hunt. I love to fish. I love to recreate. I'm an outdoorsman. I'm a Wyoming guy through and through. And I would sure love your guys' vote, and I can't wait to work with two of these folks here that are at this table if I can get your votes. And again, I want to apologize for my lateness tonight.
Thank you very much. Ms. Heath, 2 minutes.
Yeah, I hate campaign stump speeches because politicians invariably start making promises that they may or may not be able to keep, and most people only recognize or remember the 30-second soundbite anyway. As a commissioner, I'm part of a team, and my focus is making Laramie County a better place to live. And as part of the team of 5, it's important that we each do our homework, and I don't care which one you are or who you are, and know the facts as much as possible, and be willing to hear ideas from others. We may have differing opinions, but it's in listening to those conversations and those discussions that make us better commissioners overall. And when people know what needs to be done, they'll work with you instead of against you. And I think that's one of the things that I bring to the table, is I'm willing to listen to folks and look for solutions. Sometimes I may hit a roadblock or a brick wall on a solution, but I can talk to the public on a solution or on a problem, and invariably they'll come up with something that will help us out. And by combining those ideas, we make better decisions. I think one of the key things that